If you go to my YouTube channel and search popular, the video that is at the top by a long shot is hiking 60 miles alone in Hornstrandir Iceland. And this trip was the one that kind of launched my career as a silent solo hiking filmmaker, mainly because of this view. It's a magical place that I didn't know about before I researched like a week or two before the trip itself. And I never really did a guide with the video because this was early and I wasn't doing that yet. So this trip deserves a guide. I'm going to share the itinerary, the hiking route, talk about the gear, the experience I had, how to get to and from the trail, as well as, why you should just visit Iceland in general. I've been probably 4 or 5 times and it's an amazing place, so let's just talk about this trip. I also want to talk about the video, why it got 5 million views, why people responded to it so well. Why does everywhere in Iceland look like the edge of the world? It is truly stunning. This video inspired me so much that I actually did this exact hike last summer, 2021. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Thank you for not playing club music as your background music of choice. Makes it much more enjoyable. Shout out Ann Lee, she's got an amazing YouTube channel. But yeah, let's talk about the music and why it worked. Most of the music was by an artist called Alaskan Tapes that I found randomly on musicbed.com. Musicbed is a music wow, okay. Is that a coincidence? Why are they on the front page? Musicbed is where I got most of my music back in the day and I still use them, but this is a brand new album. Wow. Alaskan Tape music fit so well with this because it just fit the vibe, the feeling. I was alone, I was a little lonely, bored at times. That's just what it's like when you're doing these hikes in the middle of nowhere with no one to talk to. Ambient drone vibes, works as far as music. But yeah, how do we get to the trailhead? The hike is actually up in this area of Iceland, and you could take a bus or something or rent a car. I don't recommend it. I jumped onto a plane at the Reykjavik International Airport at Midborg and then just took the quick flight on a very small plane up to this lovely little town nestled between these fjords called Ísafjörður. Ísafjörður. And this opening shot in the video is me landing at that little airport up in that northern area. So the airport strip is right here. You hop in a little shuttle that takes you around the water sound into the main area of town right here. It's a very small, quaint little town. I went there with Mika, my wife, not too long ago, and it was really nice, like reminiscing about that hike and just going up there again. The area is just beautiful, nestled between these fjords. There's just so much to do. And one thing you have to do if you go to this town is go to this restaurant. I'll show it in a second, but it's got the best fish soup, fish buffet. What? Temporary closed? Did they close it? No. I hope to God that it's not like forever closed. That would be a nightmare. All right, anyone who goes, please confirm and let me know if this place is still alive, because that's such a shame if it's forever closed. There is a pretty cool brewery, Dokken Brew House. This I can't say any of these. This is where I would always get breakfast. They've got pretty good coffee. I actually stayed at this guest house. It's called Guest House. It was pretty cheap, $93. I think it was cheaper when I was there. And I will say I got a canister of gas for my camping stove at the Netto right here next to the supermarket, and I got some groceries. But when I arrived 3 years ago, I went straight to this Borea Adventures place to book my boat ticket, my ferry to the trailhead, because the trail starts all the way over here, so you have to take a boat. And it can be a little confusing because there's actually, I think, 2 operators. There's West Tours and then Borea. I believe I used West Tours. That's the office I went to, but I think they're both the same. I don't know how it works. But you mainly look at the schedule, you figure out a time, and you have to book both, your to and from. And it can be a bit expensive. It's like almost 20,000 ISK is like over $100 each way. So if you book round trip, you could expect to pay up to $300. So just keep that in mind. That's the most expensive thing about this. And booking the boat is like the most difficult thing for the round trip because like you have to be there. Like there's really no cell service. Once you're in the Hornstrandir area, you have to be very precise and have good planning for your escape from the island, I guess. And I think these sell out. So the earlier you can book these if you're planning on going to hike Hornstrandir, the better. Like I got very lucky just showing up, booking and going like 30 minutes after I booked. But it's probably a bit more popular now. So I started here and I took a boat over to this Hesteyri village. There's a number of places you could be dropped off, but I just planned on doing this entire route. This is the main Horn area and then coming over here to get picked up. If I were to do it again, I would probably do something very similar. You know, this is a 3 or 4 day trip. It worked out pretty well. So as far as like how many days you need to hike, like you're the only person that can answer that because you have to have a good idea of how many miles you can do. I would say this hike is a little harder than usual. Even though there are no trees, it can be pretty swampy and muddy and marshy at times. And there is a little bit of elevation gain, a surprising amount for like walking on the beach for most of the time. So, you know, if you're usually doing 15 miles a day, plan on doing 10 miles a day, I would say. So this is the scene of me getting onto the ferry to go to the trailhead, and you can see how big other people's packs are. Mine was not that much. I did not bring as many. I definitely didn't stay as long as other people, and I think I hiked a bit faster than most. So, and on the ride there, I was super worried about the weather because for most of the boat ride, it was just like whiteout fog. I couldn't see anything, and I was like, is this what it's gonna be like for the rest of the hike? I was a bit worried. And as we landed on the shore, it just cleared up. It was so beautiful. The wildflowers were out, blue skies. I was excited. I was like just super pumped to be hiking with good weather. And there was like a crepe and coffee place right there, this little house with like a single person. But this was like the last time I would see people until the very end. And so many people ask about the like choice to not talk or anything. Like my microphone actually broke on this trip, so I decided to not bring any microphone. So I just had the onboard camera microphone and just used that to get some like ambient natural sounds. And that's, I guess, how the silent hiking genre started for me. And I was definitely a noob hiker, and this was the first time I had like a water bottle filter. I think this is like a Sawyer Squeeze, and I remember thinking like, I can't use the water in the ocean because that's salt. Like I can't filter that. Like it was the first time like that thought had come to me because this is the first time I was using this device. I just remember like it was so silly to like be thinking about that for the first time out there alone. Like I definitely should have thought about this before I put myself into a dangerous situation. I also did not bring a cap, and I didn't have a sun hoodie, and I didn't have any sunscreen, so it was bright for the first couple of days, and I definitely regret not having any sun protection. In my research, I did learn about the Arctic foxes in the area, and they change colors based on the season, so it was really cool to like get to see one on the trip. Like some people have photos of them coming right up to them, but I was just happy enough to have that. The flies were terrible. I really wish I had a bug net. I don't think bug spray would have helped. Like the only thing that helped me on this hike was like slight wind, which I got at certain points on the passes, because there was barely any wind in the valleys, and the flies just attacked my eyes and my nose and my mouth and my ears. And every time I stopped for camp, like you can see right here, the flies were just non-stop attacking me. I had my hood up just to protect myself a little bit, but I definitely like ate as quickly as I could and just went into the tent to escape the flies. So day one was going all the way over here, descending on this rope, and then sleeping here. And then I had the swimming pool shot. I camped right here just because I had a rough day. I tried to go across this because I saw an option, but based on, you know, the tide, you can or cannot. Like this was all filled with water and it just wasn't possible. So I had to like turn back and then go this way. And then I finally reached like the main campsite. I would say this is where most of the people were that I got to hang out with and talk to before, you know, I would go to the main area of the hike, the Horn. Just the way that my timing happened, like I took a little rest and then ate before I went to do the Horn to come back to do another rest because I had a very tight, narrow window and I couldn't really sleep like a full night before I had to get back to the boat because I gave myself extra time to make sure that I was waiting at the boat area because I didn't know how long it would take me to get up over the pass to get there. But I was really excited to like get to this major spot, the climax of the hike. The weather was okay, but storm clouds were starting to come in, so I was kind of rushed a little bit, but there were birds everywhere. The cliff was just amazing. The sun came out just like a little bit for like little bits and pieces. And I was up there completely alone. Like, I'm really grateful that I had this entire time up at the Horn by myself, didn't see a single person. You can kind of see myself a little bit on the lip of the cliff there. All of the birds, the grass, like the grass was so bright green because of the rainfall and the temperature. I forget what month this was, like maybe July or June. But yeah, this was definitely the best part of the experience. So cool. I was so happy. And after I got these shots, I rushed back to my tent, which I left because it started to rain and I didn't feel like getting any more shots. So went back, washed off, took a quick nap, packed up, and then started to head over my last pass to get to the escape on the boat. And at this point I was just booking it up over this pass. It was just beautiful passing all the snow, and I got to this campsite right on time because it started to just pour and rain right after I set up my tent, got inside, and I felt so good because like there were other people arriving at camp and having to set up in the rain, and it was terrible. And I will note, like, it was nice talking to these two people. I don't remember their names, but this guy was wearing a white Hyperlite bag, and this was the first time that I'd ever seen a Hyperlite pack. And I asked him, I'm like, that pack is so cool. Like, what is that? Where'd you get that? So he told me all about the company, and then that's, you know, the reason why I looked at the website and eventually got my own black Southwest 2400 version for the Tour de Mont Blanc hike, which I would do after this trip. But I got on the boat and then went back and had a big meal. It was nice to not eat ramen and found a puppy. And it was just great. So all in all, this route says 50 miles, but I tracked about 60 miles on this hike. Beautiful filming. This is the most zen, meditative, mindful vlog I've ever seen. Very peaceful. Not a single word spoken, yet one of the best hiking videos. So pure and peaceful. Every scene costs 3 times more energy because he needs to record the walk and get back to the camera and then walk. So yeah, that is true. For this video, I had a Sony camera on a tripod, and that's about it. You know, I'd set up a tripod, get the shot. I would lock the exposure, lock the focus, walk over. I think when you're doing landscape stuff like this, it just helps to have a locked camera. Most people who are hiking don't want to bring the extra weight of the tripod, so it just really sets you apart, as well as the drone footage. You know, if it can be simple, just forward moving, subtle, slow, you know, that's the style I like. But just having me as like the only thing that's kind of moving on the screen, I think helps center and just make it like a peaceful, calming shot, I guess. And the more that you can show and not tell, you know, like having the clothes in the foreground, me in the background. So why did this video get 5 million views? It's anyone's guess. I would say the thumbnail is just very simple and like striking. It's highly saturated. I think it just works really well as a thumbnail. The title is simple. It all fits within the fold. You know, there's no ... Hiking 60 miles alone in Hornstrandir Iceland, I think, is just a very simple, straightforward title, and I deliver on that promise. The content is good. It's just, it's very trimmed. There's no fat. I get right to it. And, you know, it's a little unique as far as the silent solo tripod aspect of the hiking video. People who want to travel and go to places like this would probably like it and share it with their friends. The first month of the video going live was pretty wild. I had one day where I received almost 200,000 views on the video, and that was unreal. I'd never experienced that. My phone was blowing up with comments, the amount of subs I gained. And I've had a couple moments where the video has kind of popped off a little bit, but it's getting old. It was shot in 2019? And for AdSense revenue, it's made over $12,000, but over years. And the average view duration's 4 minutes, and I think the algorithm feeds it to people based on how long they watch it. So it's interesting to see this go up and down. This should be pretty standard. The video isn't changing. What's changing is the quality or type of people that the algorithm is sending the video to. So this shows that it's sending the video differently, and I'm sure a lot of people have been to this spot after watching this video, and I think that's cool. So I think that's about it. I have the trail map link in the video. I'll put the 2 links to the boating companies in there as well. So I hope this video helps you prepare if you're planning on doing this hike, or is at least entertaining for inspiring you to get out to hike and travel. There are really cool places. For some of these videos that I have hikes, I don't have guides. The Picos de Europa is probably the next hike that I'm going to do a video like this for, because I really don't have a guide explaining how to go on this hike and what the experience was like, the behind the scenes, as well as Tour de Mont Blanc. For a couple of these, they really deserve the full story. So I'm interested in telling that. And like I mentioned, it would be really cool to do these videos live. So if people are interested in this style of format, it would be really cool to go live on the channel, do all of this with chat, with people interacting, and then cut the video up and upload it as you're watching right now. Oh, and I just realized that I do have the Hornstrandir photo right behind me this whole time, so that's funny. Okay, thank you for watching. Take care.